Well, good morning. Welcome to the next of our daily videos from Yoker Evangelical Church. It's Wednesday, the 15th of April today, and this morning we read Psalms 23 and 24, and we read Leviticus chapter 19. And in this video, I'd like us to take a look at Leviticus chapter 19, because I think it's a chapter and a book that can often be quite scary to us. And we don't fully understand why it's in the Bible, why we're being given it to read. It just seems like a long list of laws. But I hope that by looking at it together, we can see that this chapter and this whole book is one that is well worth looking into, that can help us to follow God today. So Leviticus is a book that brings together all the things that Moses said to the people after they had been rescued from Egypt. One of the things that's been so good about following this Bible reading plan is that we have seen the story of God's people right from the beginning. And so this same group of people that God rescued from Egypt in Exodus is now sitting at the bottom of the mountain, and God is speaking to Moses and telling the people, this is how I want them to live. These are the laws that they are to follow so that they can live my way. And chapter 19 captures that. In its first few verses, we get a perfect introduction to what is going on. Just listen to this. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, 'Be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy.'" Well, Moses' message that he is to take to the people then is clear. They are to be holy. Just as God is holy, the people are to be holy. Well, what does he mean by holy? Well, I'd like to steal a visual aid that I once heard that I found really helpful. Being holy is a little bit like a pen lid because it means to be set apart. You see, the people, as they're going into this land, the temptation is that they will become like all the nations that are around them, all the people that don't follow God. And God is clear as they are going in, you're not to be like that. You are to be holy. You are to be set apart from the other people. You are going to be different. Actually, that is just like God is separate. He is different. By his nature, his holiness means that he is unlike anybody else. He is completely separate from sin. And so the message of these laws is that God's rescued people are to be holy because God, their rescuer, is holy. It's really important we understand that these are not laws given to the people so that if they follow all of them, then they can be made right with God. No, these are laws given to a people that have already been rescued, and they have been rescued to a holy life. What the laws are doing is helping the people to live a holy life. The law, as it's given in Leviticus, is not meant to be a burden for the people. It's not meant to be saying you have to do this and follow all these rules. Instead, it's saying you are to be like God, and here are the train tracks that you should follow that will help you do that. And actually, we can see that as we read through the laws. If the people were to follow these laws perfectly, living in Israel would have been perfect at that time. Imagine living in a place where people cared for the weak, the old, where there was no stealing, no lying. Life would be so much better if people obeyed the law. And God reminds them throughout this of exactly who it is that is giving them. Again and again, we get this repeated phrase, "I am the Lord." Just to remind the people, these laws that you're getting, they're not coming out of Moses' head. They are coming straight from God to tell the people, this is how you are to live. So the big question is, how do these laws help us as Christians in the 21st century? How do laws given to a people living in the desert thousands of years ago help people living in Yoker today to follow the living God? Well, I think there's two big things. The first is that these laws show us what God is like. It is true, isn't it, that the rules that you make will show people what you are like. If somebody has a rule that you cannot wear shoes in their house, it will teach you that that person cares a lot about their carpets. Similarly, the rules that God gives to his people show us what he is like. It shows that God cares for the weak and the vulnerable. That's why he makes laws that they have to be cared for. And it also shows us that God takes sin seriously. That's why these laws focus so much on wrongdoing, because God cares that his people are living a holy life, a set-apart life. And so these laws show us what God is like, but I think they can also help us to follow God today. God doesn't change, and yet we are now the other side of Jesus, and so simply taking these laws and following every one of them wouldn't actually be right. It wouldn't be helpful for us. Jesus has now arrived, and he is the one that we look to. He shows us perfectly what a holy life looks like. And yet some of these laws will still be helpful today. I think we can break the law down into categories that we find that will help us just to see some of the differences that there are between the rules. I want to draw your attention to 3 kinds of laws that we find here. So some of the laws that the people are given are ceremonial laws. They are to help the people in the way that they were to worship God. So take this, for example, in verse 5. When you sacrifice a fellowship offering to the Lord, sacrifice it in such a way that it will be accepted on your behalf. Well, that law doesn't help us perform sacrifices because we aren't to perform sacrifices, but it does show us the kind of sacrifices that are pleasing to God, and so that teaches us something about God. So there are ceremonial laws. There are also social laws. Take a look at this one from verse 27. Do not cut the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. Well, I don't think that is a law for Christians today. As you can see, I have cut the hair at the sides of my head. That law was given to the people in their context. The Israelites who have been rescued by God are about to go into the country that God's going to give them. And they'll be surrounded by all these nations that don't follow God. Some of these laws are there so that the people that are moving into the country will look different from the nations around them. That it will be obvious to everybody who looks that these are people that follow God because of the way that they look, the way they dress. And so some of these laws that are given are simply social laws. They are not for us to follow today. But some of the laws that we read about are moral laws, and I think they are helpful for us today. So for example, in verse 11, God tells the people, do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. Well, those laws were true then and they are true now. They reflect the eternal character of God, that he hates lying, he hates stealing. And so actually by reading that law, it can help us to live a holy life. Well, I hope this has been helpful to see that the law that's been given to the people in Leviticus is a gift and it's not a burden. And similarly to us, when we read it, it shouldn't be a burden to us. We shouldn't be reading this and thinking, oh, I've got loads of laws that I need to obey now. No, that's not the case. They are laws given to help people live a holy life. Oh, God bless and have a good day.